Hey, Documentary First listeners, we are so excited to announce that our amazing podcast is now brought to you by our friends at Artillery Sports. I want to tell you that Artillery Sports is veteran owned and operated by a veteran. And he created this company to help veterans. So if you play pickleball and you play golf, this company is for you because you now can help veterans by purchasing some of their 5-star series pickleballs, golf balls, and bamboo golf tees. It's really amazing because every 20% of the profits that come in, they are given to veterans organizations that help veterans get low or no cost healthcare, which if you have veterans in your family and they've tried to get healthcare from the VA or they've tried to get healthcare somewhere else, you know how impossibly difficult and hard that is. So one way that you can help them is to purchase pickleballs, golf balls, and golf tees so that this veteran can give to these organizations that help them do this. I know this veteran personally. He's an incredible man. He used to be with the 101st Airborne Division, of course, my regimental division. I don't know that I can say that correctly, but they are close to my heart. Anyway, so back to the sponsor ad. He is also a supporter of our films because he believes that they have been such a blessing to veterans and their families. So he's offering you a discount. So if you head on over to artillerysports.com today and you use the code DOCFIRST, capital D, capital F, DOCFIRST, you'll get a 10% discount off your order today. So go on over to artillerysports.com and tell them I sent you. Welcome to Documentary First, an inside look at a documentary filmmaker's journey. I am your host, Christian Taylor. My co-host, Jason Rugg, is out again this week, but he does assure me one day, eventually, he will be back with some interesting and very exciting career news. I want to take a second and give you a company update of Documentary First. So when this comes out, it's going to be June 19th, but today it is May 16th. We are always trying to record ahead, particularly because, as you know, now at June 19th, I went to Normandy. So I'm going to Normandy in 2 weeks. I'm taking C.O. Bauer, the 101-year-old veteran in our film, back to Normandy for the first time. So when you hear this podcast, we will already be back. So you'll need to check our social media. We're going to be posting videos about that, and you'll be able to learn about his trip. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter, do that because we will be telling more about his trip. So yeah, it's going to be amazing. Also coming up, which will have already happened by the time you're listening to this, is we are having our first theatrical release, and I just can't even believe it. We have 222 theater screenings across the U.S. in 109 cities in 31 states. The film is also on Delta and United, and it's going to be on those planes all the way through the end of the year. So if you're traveling on Delta and United, go to the documentary section and look up The Girl Who Wore Freedom. And it's also going to be on all the regular streaming services, except Netflix. We're not there yet. As well as Canal Plus in France, in every French-speaking country in the world, actually. So we're super excited about what's going on with The Girl Who Wore Freedom. And when you're listening to this, after we get back from Normandy, we'll start fundraising for Heroes of Keraton. Our next film, we're halfway done with that, and we'll be in the fundraising phase. We've got to raise about $150,000 for our finishing funds. So you can be part of that. Join our Patreon at patreon.com/documentaryfirst and join the adventure. It's going to be really fun. All right, enough of all of that. I have someone sitting here who's been waiting very patiently to talk with me about her amazing film. And so I just want to introduce Saffron Cassaday. Saffron, it's so nice to have you here today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and away from your 2 little adorable sons to be with us.
Thank you so much for having me. And congratulations, by the way, on the theatrical release. I had no idea. That's amazing.
It is unbelievable. I have to give credit to 2 people. David Patterson, who is a producer. I don't know if you ever saw The Bridge to Terabithia, but that was his big Disney hit, and he has had many others, but most people know this one. he has just championed this from the beginning to get it into theaters because he believes that it should be there. And even though it's an older film, it's the 80th anniversary of D-Day. And he's like, it needs to be in theaters. So we've kind of set the roadmap for that. And Todd Anderson, who has been our spreadsheet, we're going to figure out this, map this all out guy. We would never be able to do it without him. So if you're listening to this and you want a theatrical release, we're going to do a whole segment about how to do this with your own film, in a few weeks. So hang on for that. All right, Saffron, I'm going to read your bio real quick. I have to say a couple of things. I watched Saffron's film last night that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to be honest with you, I did not want to watch it. I'm sorry, but I did not want to watch it. When I read about it, I was like, do I have to watch this? Really? Is this what it's about? I'm so glad I watched it. I thought it was awesome. And I can't wait to talk about it because I have so many questions. All right. So anyway, here is her bio. All right. Saffron Cassaday directed her first documentary feature film called Cyber Seniors in 2014, which I can't wait to see. I haven't seen that yet. The film followed a group of senior citizens as they learned about the internet from teenage mentors and the connections made both on and offline. I bet that's so incredibly touching. I just think that's a genius idea. The film has been broadcast in 40 countries, including on PBS. Congratulations to you. Netflix and CBC in North America. I still can't crack those things, so I'm going to have to learn from you. Cyber Seniors screening events were supported by over 900 partners, including AARP Foundation, Best Buy Foundation. You've got a lot. Please give me the roadmap. I need that. Blue Cross Blue Shield Minnesota, and hundreds of schools, university, and libraries. Now, we're here today to talk about her new film. I'm not quite sure how to say this or if I should. So
I can say it for you.
all
Designer
right,
shit.
Designer shit. Saffron explores the efficacy of fecal transplant for her condition, ulcerative colitis, using herself as a human guinea pig. You are one brave lady. I'm telling you what, I don't know if I could have ever done that. So yes, we are here to talk about her film, Designer Shit. So let's just jump right in and, let's talk about it. So tell me how in the world, I mean, I know you've had this disease and I know you wanted to cure it, but why in the world would you want to film this?
So my condition is ulcerative colitis. It's an autoimmune condition that where the immune system basically attacks the colon. I had this for about 10 years. I felt that I was running out of options. When I was first diagnosed, I was put on a medication that worked well for me. And I am, a big fan of Western medication. I'm not a really holistic, naturalistic type of person. I think people think that I am. I'm not. I was very happy to be on a medication that treated my symptoms. But what happened was over the course of time, the medications worked less. And I felt that my condition kept getting worse and worse. So
Is that common? Like, do people normalize to those medications and they're not as effective? Is that actually happen?
it can be common. It depends on the person. Some people start out really extreme. I started out really mild. And
Okay.
mine got worse over the course of my 20s. And it was when I was about 30 years old that the medications I was on the max dose, and they just weren't working anymore. There was another class of drugs I could have moved up to with more side effects, but I just thought I want to now try something more natural before I take that step. Because what happens if at 30 years old I'm put on this more intense drug that then loses efficacy by the time I'm 40? I've got a long life to live, And I heard about a treatment called fecal transplant, which it's a treatment that involves taking stool from a healthy donor and implanting it into the gut of a sick patient. Now, this field has moved on since when I did it. Now there are pills. There's an FDA-approved pill available on the market, so you can.
So they've made the pill? I mean, because I don't know that it was made when you did this, but you said it was coming.
It was approved about a year ago for C. difficile. It's not yet approved for my condition, ulcerative colitis, but we do have really good evidence that it's, 90% effective for C. difficile. So this pill has been approved for that. But, I made this film 5 years ago. At the time, the way of doing it was you create kind of a slurry, a stool slurry, and you put it up via enema. And the idea is that sometimes people with these conditions that are bowel related, we have this whole biome within our guts, all these bugs that have this intricate relationship and balance. Sometimes when that balance gets destroyed, we have a lack of bacteria. If we can replenish that microbiome with healthy gut bacteria, we can treat these illnesses. It was something that I was following for 10 years before I made the decision
Oh,
to do it.
wow.
Yeah, I mean, the first time
You
I
must
heard
have
about
gotten
it,
really to a desperate point.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first time I heard about it, somebody sent me an article. You should try this. And I was like, I'm good. I'm good with the medication I'm on. I don't think I would ever do something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty
Um,
repulsive when you think about it. That's why I was like, I don't think I can watch that film. That just, you just can't even imagine something like that. And it reminded me, did you ever see the movie with Hugh Grant and Sandra Bullock, um, where her stomach was upset and they were stuck in traffic and she had to go to the bathroom and they could not get out. Your first opening scene reminded me of this. And ultimately, he had to get out and take her to a trailer. And it is funny, but it's not funny, especially if you're in that situation. But you realize how absolutely horrible. And in your situation, it wasn't funny at all. You realize it's a horrible thing.
I have never seen that film, but that
Oh, you
that was
have
my
to.
life. That's the opening
Yeah.
scene of my film. It's me stuck in traffic trying to get to the bathroom, and that's what my life had become. I had so many triggers, as I called them. I had a lot of anxiety in my life around bathrooms. Anytime I was
Yeah.
stuck in traffic, even in line at the grocery store waiting to pay, like these moments where I was like, I can't just drop everything and run to a bathroom right now. That's when my mind would start playing games with me.
Sure.
You're going to have to go to the bathroom right now. It was my biggest fear in life. It became difficult to leave the house, to
Mhm.
travel. Um, so that was the place that I was at when I decided to try fecal transplant. And I totally understand that people are turned off of this. And you know what, now that I'm feeling better, I'm completely turned off by this idea. Like I can't even watch my own film
Hmm.
because I don't
That's interesting.
remember that state of desperation.
Desperation?
I was just desperate and I was willing to do anything at that
Anything.
point.
Well, and you interviewed someone who, I mean, when you interviewed other people, they were on the verge of death or having their colon removed or like serious procedures. Like it's no joke, you know. If you went down that road, you could be there also. Um, for sure. So you weren't it wasn't just because you didn't like it. I mean, I'm wondering, did you feel like not eating? I don't think I would want to eat if that was happening to me.
While doing fecal transplant or while that's sick?
No, while you're that sick. Like if you know you can't go to the bathroom, I just wouldn't want to eat.
I got into bad habits like that, so for example, if I had to travel and for our work, sometimes you have to get on a plane, you have to travel to another location. On those days, I would not eat. I would not eat until I arrived at my location.
Mhm.
So I was fasting for like 24 hours sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I look back on that and just like I feel so sorry for myself, and I think I kind of just went along with it and was like, this is my normal. It's what I have to do. And it should have never been normal. I should have never normalized that in my life. I'm glad that I kept looking for solutions to say, I'm not going to continue living like this. And one of the impetuses for me to try to get better was, like I said, I was 30. I was in a relationship where, we wanted to start a family. And I just thought, I'm barely handling my day to day life right now. How can I become a mother? That level of responsibility of caring for somebody else when some days I can't leave the house. I'm picturing myself at like T-ball practice and being like, is there a bathroom at this park? Like I
Mhm.
could not move on to the next stage of my life with this still being such a disruption.
Mhm. Well, again, like I said, I can understand you getting to the point of desperation, wanting to try this new treatment, and I don't know that we should give away too much because I really do think people should see this film. But I really am curious how you decided to film this and why.
So I was fascinated by this topic. I was obsessed with this topic. I was looking for a new documentary film topic to pitch, to work on. And I had some ideas. Maybe I'll do a film about this. Maybe I'll do a film about this. But while I was procrastinating on my work, all I was doing was researching fecal transplant. I was following every major study going on. I knew the major researchers who were speaking out about this. And I just thought, if I can't stop thinking about this, maybe this is the film that I should be doing. And selfishly, I was like, I want to meet and interview the world's leading experts on this. Like, how great to be able to sit down and have 2 hours in front of this person whose papers I keep reading and just ask my burning questions. Um, and in terms of filming myself, I thought that the film needed a personal story of somebody doing it in real time.
Of course.
And from a producer's perspective, it was just such easy access. Like, am I going
Mhm.
to get access to somebody else 24/7? No, I have access to my own story 24/7. I can bring my friend who's my cinematographer over and say, can you come over this week? Something big is happening within the story. So I exploited myself in a way that was uncomfortable because from a shooting perspective, it was easy. It's
Mhm.
the easiest person to feature was myself.
Well, again, you're right. The access was easy because there's another character, a very important character in your film, who also was easily accessible, which made it very convenient. And I have to say, he is award winning and heart winning and a real champ, I think, and a savior, and so many other things in your life. I grew to love him in this film.
Yeah. So when it comes to fecal transplant, you can't just use any donor. There's a very strict criteria for who makes a good stool donor. And they really have to have the perfect bill of health, meaning they've never had any sort of chronic illness. Haven't been on antibiotics for many, many years, clean diet, good weight, regular bowel movements. And my live-in partner at the time is now my husband, just happened to be a health superstar. And even luckier than that, he was very into this idea. I think people have
I think
varying
he's a
degrees.
boy. I was watching it with Heidi, my assistant, and she was like, "He is such a boy. He's such a boy." And he is such a boy. Like, farting is funny kind of thing with boys. And you could really tell he was very into this whole thing of helping you.
Absolutely, he has no discomfort around talking about
Mm-mm.
bathroom habits, which is great because, well, I think some men too can be like, I don't want to hear about my wife's thing. So I didn't have to be self conscious. I am the self conscious one who was always like, I would never describe my symptoms to him. It was always trying to be polite and like, no, my stomach's hurting today. Um, but he was the one who would always say, like, how was the bathroom? How are you feeling? How's your gut today? He, from the beginning of our relationship, was never turned off by this or judged me for it. And even before we started fecal transplant, just having him be so supportive and non judgmental was something I really needed as someone who was dealing with anxiety about this. And what if somebody
Mhm.
finds out and I can't go anywhere? He was always just, get in the car. I got your back. If we need to pull over, I'm going to get you to a bathroom. And it was just, he still takes care of me that way. I'm very
That's
lucky.
beautiful. You are very, very blessed for sure. All right, well, let's back up a little bit. And I'd love to know how you got into this filmmaking crazy business in the first place.
Sure. I studied acting and I started out as an actor for a very
Me
brief
too.
period of time. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you still like acting?
I do, I do. I actually my acting is my day job. That's how I kind of pay my bills for my filmmaking passion.
Wow.
How about
So
you?
I hate acting.
That's
I'm a very like shy and introverted person. I don't know. It was hard for me. Um, but as I was acting, I got into editing. This was probably 2005 when I was in my early 20s, and these kind of consumer editing products like Final Cut Pro started coming
Mhm,
out.
mhm.
So I took an editing course and learned how to edit so I could start doing like corporate videos on the side. That was my side hustle.
Okay,
And I fell in love with editing. So I
okay.
transitioned into being an editor. Um, then I came across a documentary film subject, the film that I wanted to make. And I think I thought making a documentary film would be easier.
Easy. I
Yeah.
know, I thought the same thing. I was like, "How hard can it be?"
But what I
Oh, how
like about
silly we were.
documentary is that so much of the work is in the edit, right? Like you
Mhm.
go
Oh,
out and
yeah.
film,
You're
like,
writing it in the edit. Yeah,
yeah. So the filming part is kind of like run and gun, get as much footage as you can, but then you're just left with this mess of hundreds of hours of footage.
correct.
And like, I loved that part
It's
of
a
it. I still love
puzzle.
that. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, did you go to school to do that, or just you took an editing class and then you kind of learned all the filmmaking stuff you taught yourself?
Yes, I did.
Me
Yeah.
too. We have a lot in common.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So then you decided to make, was your first one the senior citizens one?
It was, yes.
Okay. So you decided to jump in and do this. Talk to me about this one. It sounded like if that was your first one. I mean, that was a home run out of the gate.
Um, well, I made that film 10 years ago, and it's still going. This is the thing about documentary film is that you have to really love the topic because you're probably going to be stuck with it. If you're lucky, you're going to be stuck with that topic for a really
Hmm.
long time. Um, I have two younger sisters who were in high school at the time, and they, through a community service project, started this program called Cyber Seniors. And it was just them and a couple of their friends would go to a retirement residence and teach the seniors how to use technology. Now, this film is kind of dated already because you have to think 10 years ago, there's been a
Oh
huge
yeah,
jump in technology. Seniors 10 years
enormous.
ago, yeah, seniors today know how to use the internet.
A little bit,
10,
yes.
10 years ago,
They know the internet exists. They know the
yes.
internet exists and they have relative knowledge. 10 years ago, we all were wondering, what is the internet?
Yes. There's also within that demographic of seniors, there's two generations, right? Like you could be a 65-year-old senior with a 90-year-old parent. So I'm talking about
Mhm.
the 90-year-olds. They were going to this retirement residence and teaching 90-year-olds to use the internet for the first time. And it
Wow.
was amazing to see their eyes light up and the types of things that they wanted to look for. Obviously, they wanted to look up their grandkids' Facebook accounts. That was the first thing. They wanted
Mhm.
photos of
Okay.
family. A lot of them wanted to use Google Earth to go back to the town that they grew up in, maybe in Europe,
Interesting.
walk the streets. This was the school that I went to. There were no cars then, but that was the school. Now there's cars in the parking lot. We didn't have that. Just these crazy generational gaps that were being bridged through this program. So they were connecting with family via technology, but they were connecting with these students too, that the students felt like, oh, this is something that I'm an expert in. I can teach
Mhm.
you. And it gave them this boost of confidence.
Mhm.
So we made that film low budget. I edited that film myself on my laptop. And yeah, like I said, we found an audience. We found an audience, and what we thought the audience would be was senior citizens. We thought that it
Mhm.
would inspire older people to get on the internet, but that wasn't our audience actually.
Who
Our
was it?
audience was it was the sandwich. It was female skewing, middle-aged women who had elderly parents and teenagers who were trying to
Interesting.
figure out a way to bring
To
these
connect
two.
them.
Yes. Or it was people who work in caregiving services, who work in nursing retirement residences, work with
Okay.
elderly people. That was our audience. And it was a really strong audience that just kind of fell in love with this film and allowed it to do what it did. You know, we started out with community screenings. Do you want us to bring this film to your community? Help us find a sponsor. And, you know, like I said, it's still kind of going. These programs still exist.
Yeah, that's really amazing, actually. I find it remarkable when young people like you are just self starters and can say, I'm going to do this thing right out of the gate and are so successful with a huge campaign like you've done. So tell me, did you have any other mentors at the time, or did you, how did you figure out how to do these, big campaigns, community screenings, and, how did you get your distributor? And talk to me about all of those things.
Okay, so I have to say that my producer is my mom. My
No
mom.
way.
Yes, but she had no background in film either. So my mom worked in, she had a company, a physiotherapy company, doing physiotherapy for senior citizens across Canada and Canadian, different nursing retirement homes. And she had sold this company and retired. So when my sisters started this program, and I said, I think this is kind of a good idea for a documentary film, my mom said, me too. So we kind of teamed up and did it. And it was through, she already kind of knew this world, at least on the Canadian side. But we kind of learned together as we went. And there were just a lot of other mentors that we had that were kind of like, how did you guys do it? Films that were specifically about seniors who, you know, got the attention of AARP, for example, you know? So
Hmm.
been
And then
learning
how
as
did you
we've
get your
gone.
funding?
We were self-funded and it was really low budget. And in Canada, we're really blessed to have great tax credits.
Yeah.
It was all Canadian labor, so we knew that there was some money coming back, and yeah.
That's beautiful. All
And
right.
then
Well, it
sorry, I
in
was gonna
go
say we
ahead.
also through sponsorship, things like AARP, Best Buy Foundation, who did our theatrical screenings with us.
Okay. All right. And so do you feel like that success there then helped you with the next film? Is this designer shit your next film, or did you have others in between?
I had one other, and our bread and butter, what we usually do is, like, more short form content.
Okay. And so
Um,
that keeps you busy, that pays the bills.
yes, and like I said, I mean, choose a topic that you love because based on cyber seniors, a lot of the work that we've gotten has been related to this topic of seniors. So,
Fascinating.
yeah, so we'll do, commercials with Fujitsu. Fujitsu wants to do this project where they connect teenagers and seniors to, like, use this tech product together. We can do a
Yeah.
commercial for that. Um, Through Canada, we get these funds that are, we want to do a short film series about unpaid caregivers in Canada. That's kind of where we fit in, where, we know a lot of unpaid caregivers because we already exist in this world. So these are the
Mhm.
types of topics that we tend to stick to. Designer
Yeah.
shit is kind of the outlier.
It is the outlier for
Yeah.
sure. Well, that's true. That's a very, very good point that you do need to love your subject matter because it doesn't go away. That's true in my case as well. Because I started filming in 2018 and the film is still going. And I was thankful that it is an evergreen property. I do own it. And so hopefully, it will continue going on for a while. But you do have to love it if you want to make back the money that you spent and hopefully make money to make your next thing. You have to continue marketing it, and you have to continue finding ways to have people see it. And yes, it takes a long time, and you need to love what you're doing.
Yeah, and my dream has been with all of my feature length projects. I've always wanted to pre-sell, and we've always tried to. Here's
Mhm.
the
And
topic. Let's go out and pitch it. Let's get a distributor, pitch the topic. Somebody else is going to fund it and pay me to do this work. And unfortunately, it hasn't worked out that way yet,
not
right?
for
And
me
then,
either.
yeah, and you're like, well, I want Netflix to make this a Netflix original and pay me to make this film. And so far, that hasn't been the way it's worked out. I've ended up working, for free on my own project and then trying to make back some of that money afterwards, which maybe if we did it the other way, we would say, okay, I actually don't like this way as much as I thought it would.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to go back to self-producing my own stuff and have ownership over it because there's pros and cons to both sides.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's curious. I would like to try it out to see how it goes, but I really love having ownership of my property and figuring and doing what I want with it. It's really nice to have a veterans organization who can't afford, to pay a licensing fee, but is doing great work for me to say to me, we really want to show your film to these veterans, but we don't have money to pay you. And I can say, absolutely, here's the film without
Mhm.
any reservation because I have the ability to do that. Um, so there is something really sweet about that. Whereas if Netflix paid for it, they own it, they've paid you to do the work, and that's it. It's out
Yeah,
of your
and they
hands.
might bury it on their platform and then
Exactly.
no
And
one
nobody
gets to
sees
see
it.
it. Yeah.
That's right. Well, so talk to me about what happened after you finished Designer Shit. You finished it. Did you enter it into film festivals? What's its life been since?
I finished it.
In
I partially
2023?
Yes. So 2020, beginning of 2020, I had a rough cut that I was kind of submitting to film festivals. And then, of course, the world got put on hold and film
Hmm.
festivals weren't really happening. And I was still out there trying to get some finishing funds. But again, nothing was really happening. So I put a hold on that project and came back to it. I had a kid. I came back to it
Yeah.
like 3 years later. And we got a bit of finishing funding to throw some animation into it. That was a huge thing that, like,
Which, by the way, I just wanted to talk about the animation. I love the animation.
oh, thank
I
you.
thought that animation was beautiful because the humor that you put into the challenging subject really made a difference for me. It was the animation that was light, that was funny, that was interesting, that brightened up kind of the dark visuals and the dark subject matter. I I thought your husband's humor, and even your humor around it made it digestible. So yeah, the animation was awesome. I'm glad you had money to do that. I think it made a real difference.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we loved the animators that we worked with, and we really, thought about how do we visualize this in a way that isn't disgusting, that turns people off. So we came up with this kind of car analogy that
Mm-hmm.
the bugs in our guts are like cars in a traffic jam, and let's just keep running with that so that we're not looking at poop. Even cartoon poop, you get kind of sick of it. So it's like, let's just go in a completely different direction. We just focused on these little bug characters. And
Yeah,
yeah,
they're
once we
cute.
got that animation in there,
Yeah.
I think it made a
It
big
was
difference.
helpful too to visualize. I did learn a lot from your film. I learned a lot, and I actually felt challenged to eat better myself and to be healthier myself. Definitely eating more fiber because you aren't really aware what all is happening in your gut when you eat that food or make those choices. So that was very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're starting to learn that our guts govern a lot of things in our body that we didn't know before. So, some of the most interesting research right now around fecal transplant is around neurological conditions,
Right.
um, things like Parkinson's, autism, where, we're not saying that do this and it'll cure autism. We're saying that sometimes with Parkinson's or autism, these neurological conditions, there is also a gut problem.
Yeah.
um, so if we use fecal transplant, we can help ease those gut symptoms. And sometimes by happy accident, there is an improvement to the neurological effects, which is just amazing. So it's something that's being heavily researched right now. It's still early stages. So it's a tough film because I'm not selling fecal transplants. I don't have a stake in telling people to go out and do fecal transplants. In fact, when people ask me, I don't say go out and do what I did. I admit that it was risky. Um, I'm here to help people if they want to talk about it, but I just think it's a fascinating area of research that we should all be paying attention to because I hope that in
Hmm.
the future there will be options like this for various conditions. We're just not there yet. So it's kind of a controversial subject that's been kind of difficult while releasing it to find the right angle to talk about it in a way that,
Sure.
is responsible.
Sure. So, how have you done that? I mean, once you made it, yes, you put it on hold. What has happened since you finished? What do you do with a film like this?
It's on iTunes in North America, and we've sold to one broadcaster so far in Germany. And that German
Interesting.
broadcaster has it up on YouTube, and it's doing really well on YouTube, but we're still just kind of like testing the waters. I feel like it's not fully out there in the world yet. I think that no one has really given it a chance yet.
So,
Uh,
can our listeners go to iTunes and watch it?
yes, iTunes is
Okay.
the way to watch it right now, and I think
Well,
it will be on Tubi within the next month.
okay. Well, I certainly would encourage people to go and watch it because I do think you don't be put off by the subject matter because I think you will learn and it is interesting. And it's a good film. You must have had to use iPhone footage in
Mhm.
some of this because I just can't imagine that there was you had your phones closest in moments when you needed them. Is that true?
Yes. There are a few scenes that are shot on my iPhone because something was happening in the moment, that I was filming. Um, but for the rest of it, so the film bounces between expert interviews. So we traveled around the US interviewing people. With my personal life, my very close friend, who's a cinematographer, filmed scenes between my husband and I. And a lot of those were reenactments. It was, "Oh, this funny thing happened this week. Come over and we'll kind of reenact that scene." So it's all real, but it was a blend of iPhone footage of things happening in real time and a reenactment of a scene or a moment that had just taken place.
Okay. It seemed very real, so you did a very nice job. Your acting chops came in handy there, as did your husband's. And I definitely wanna meet him. I tell you, I feel like he should be an actor himself.
He is an actor, actually.
Is he really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, he's great. All right. Well, yeah. So you're still hoping to get this film out there. It is a challenging subject. I think it's going to be hard to figure out what this audience is. Um, and that is true. You've got to find your audience. And people ask me, they want to make a documentary. So many people say, I want to make a documentary about this, or they say, you should make a documentary about this. And there are two things that I think are very important. One, everybody's got a great idea. There are so many stories out there that, yes, they are important to be told, but somebody's got to have the money to make those and care enough about that story being told that they will pay money to have that story being told. That's number one. Number two, there has to be an audience out there that cares about the story more than just, a tiny little group, and identifying who that audience is and how you're going to reach that audience is critical, I think, before you go out and shoot things, because it's important in the end. Who is your audience and how are you going to reach them?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I think sometimes maybe you have an idea of what your audience will be. Like I said, with cyber seniors, we
Yep,
thought it'd be seniors, and we were actually wrong. Now that we know that, we're very good at working with this subject matter because we know our audience, but it took making one film to
sure,
actually understand that.
sure.
So with designer shit, I thought this would just be a fascinating topic to anybody who has an interest in health. And what I'm learning is not necessarily, but it's a lot of people with gut issues who are now stumbling upon the film. Now that it's coming out, now that it's on iTunes, now that this German broadcaster has it on YouTube, people are just kind of stumbling upon it and going, I had heard about this and I wanted to know more, and I had no idea there was a film about it. So I think the longer you're out there, the more the right people start to find you.
I do think the way that you have, I think the title is going to make people curious. I think the cover art is going to make people curious. And I think funny younger people are going to go, what is that about? And I do think there is enough humor in there to kind of keep them interested. So I will be interested to see the journey of this film, how it goes, who discovers it, because I do think people should understand it, particularly people with issues like yours, so that they can follow the research and figure it out. I was most interested in this research of how it affects the neurological conditions. That to me was fascinating, sort of as a side effects. It reminded me of how the diabetes drugs started treating weight loss as a side effect, but now years later, it's being used directly to treat weight loss. And it reminded me of that same thing, that maybe
Hmm.
one day they will be used to helping improve, Parkinson's or autism or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, there is now a pill, an FDA approved pill in the United States that is used to treat C. difficile, but that pill can now be used in clinical trials. So previously, if somebody wanted to do a clinical trial on Parkinson's, let's say, it's a big mess to kind of go, okay, we got to find these donors. We have to blend up poop and put it into these patients. And now they're like, we're going to do a trial using this pill. It becomes easier to do a clinical trial.
Hmm.
So then the research accelerates and it's an exciting time.
Yeah, really is. Well, thank you so much for making this film, for sharing it with us, for coming here to talk about it with us. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
Yeah. All right. Now it is time for everybody's favorite segment, which is DocuView Dèjà Vu. All right. We asked you to bring a documentary that you would like to share with us. So, what'd you bring?
So there's a film that came out, I think, in 2010 called Babies. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't. Tell me.
Okay, so Babies is a documentary film that follows four babies in their first year of life from
Okay.
different parts of the world.
Hmm.
And this is a film that I watched when it first came out, and I just fell in love with it. And what's interesting about it is it's purely observational. There's no expert talking heads, there's no narration. We just watch four
That's interesting.
babies in different parts of the world. Yeah, some people may say there wasn't enough of a commentary. I just find it a very calming film. I did at the
Hmm.
time, and now as a mother, I have found myself going back and watching clips of it. Um, I think that now there's so
Is
much
it
in the media.
French?
I think it's a US film.
A US film. I'm looking on IMDb, and there's one that says Babies, Babies. Is that
Yeah.
it?
I think so.
Was it 2010?
I think so.
Yeah, it
Let me
looks
see.
like it's originally French.
Oh, really? Well, you wouldn't know
Yeah,
because there's no language in it. No one's talking. You're just watching a baby.
that's fascinating.
It was fascinating, and I find it so calming because I think with media these days, there's so often a slant to things, which is fine. You spend a lot of mental work kind of dissecting what is the slant here. And this
Mhm.
film to me just felt like there was no slant. It was just purely observational.
Hmm.
And I have thought about this film in terms of, what other population could this kind of style be placed on. Obviously, I love my older people films, and
Yeah,
I am curious about, for example, what does aging look like in different parts of the world? So I
that
have
would
this
be
dream,
interesting.
yeah, of just observing different cultures. How do we treat old people? And not saying anything about it, good or bad, or this is better than this. Just let's just observe it. So
Yeah, for sure.
that's a film I
Yeah,
think
this
is so
has to be it.
important.
It says a look at 1 year in the life of 4 babies from around the world, from Mongolia to Namibia to San Francisco to Tokyo.
That's it.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Awesome. Well, I have one, kind of two to bring today. The first one, which is a genuine documentary, is called Cat Daddies. This is a documentary that I saw at the Julie and Dubuque Film Festival a couple of years back, and I just loved it. I thought it was hilarious, heartwarming, fun, thought provoking. And I did not have cats at the time. I do have cats now, and I found it even more engaging. It is just completely winning. And it is now, I saw it on American Airlines. So it's on planes, but it's also on Prime Video if you want to watch it. And then the other one is not a documentary, actually. It's a narrative, but it is a true story, or it's based on a true story. And it's called Unsung Hero. And it's actually in theaters right now. It's about a family that came from Australia who ended up going through some really hard times, really, really rough times. And they ended up succeeding in the Christian film music, but only because of this incredible mother who really is the unsung hero. And I love it how she is the focus of the film and how she sacrificed for her family and believed in her family. So those are two films I really encourage you to watch. They're uplifting and heartwarming. So anyway,
Lovely.
yeah. Well, thank you very much for being here. It's lovely to meet you and talk to you and learn more about your corner of the world and your point of view of life. So we hope to have you back to talk about another film soon. Maybe we'll have you come back to talk about senior citizens. That just really is an engaging idea to me. So,
Well, thank you so much. This has been great.
yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Documentary First, where we believe everybody has a story to tell, and you can be the one to tell it. Bye, everybody.